Welcome back to the Snail Travelers YouTube channel. We are in Istanbul and ready to share with you everything we've learned about this city. We'll give you a full review of Istanbul, share what we like and don't like about the city, and we'll give you some tips for visiting or living here in Istanbul. Let's get started. If you've been following our story, you know that we have been traveling all over the world for almost 4 years, and now we are traveling around Turkey, also called Turkey, looking for a city where we can establish ourselves and a place where we can go when we want a break from traveling. After making actually 2 trips to Istanbul, we want to share our list of pros and cons and tell you whether or not we think we could live here. The first thing we like about Istanbul is the activities. There is so much to do here. Of course, if you're here for a short holiday or vacation, you'll stay busy with the tourist activities. But even living here long term, it would be impossible to eventually get bored. One of the most popular things to do here is to visit the Galata Tower. Not only does this tower have historical significance, but it's also a great place to get a panoramic view over the city on a nice clear day. Here's a tip for visiting the tower: find out when it opens and get there early because the queue can get long. Many of the other activities here in Istanbul will be especially appealing to history enthusiasts. You've got the Topkapı Palace, which dates back to the 15th century and was home to many Ottoman sultans over the years. You could really spend an entire day if you wanted to explore every detail of this amazing complex. There are also mosques all around Istanbul, the 2 most famous being the Blue Mosque, which is absolutely stunning, not to be missed, and the second is the Hagia Sophia, which has served as a mosque, a church, and a museum off and on over the centuries. And as beautiful as the mosques are on the outside, the inside is just as spectacular, if not more so. Here's a tip: there is a dress code and some rules for visiting the mosques that you should look into ahead of time. There are museums galore in Istanbul. You could spend months visiting them. And these are just a few examples of the many activities in Istanbul. I can't go over all of them because there are so many, but the point is, if you get bored here, it's your own fault. There are plenty of activities to keep busy here in Istanbul. The next thing on our list of things we like about Istanbul is the food, because it is delicious. You of course have all the Turkish food. Some of our favorites are the chicken dürüm, which is basically grilled pieces of chicken put into a wrap with some vegetables. And we really love Iskender, which is usually chicken or beef with a tomato sauce and tangy yogurt sauce, served on top of buttery pita-type bread. And of course there's baklava. In fact, the baklava store that you see in the video here has so many different varieties, and you can tell how good it is by the crowd and the chaos of the store. And yes, it can be crowded and you might have to wait to get a table here if it's busy, but we think it's worth it. And baked potatoes are big here. We have baked potatoes at home too, but here the toppings are more numerous and delicious. Now, if you are living in Istanbul long term and start craving international food, this is the best place in Turkey to find it. We saw all kinds of food here: Mexican, Indian, Korean, and even Cuban. And we were so excited to go to a Malaysian restaurant. We walked so far to get there, but unfortunately we came at the wrong time. They weren't serving food when we went due to a special celebration. One tip about the food here is that restaurant prices in the tourist areas can be double what they are in the residential neighborhoods. For example, the price for lunch with a drink can range anywhere from $3 all the way up to $7 or $8. The next thing we like about Istanbul is the weather, because it is very pleasant for a lot of the year. Winters can get a little bit cold, sometimes snow. In fact, the first time we went to Istanbul, our flight was canceled because the airport closed due to snow. But snow like this is not typical. Spring is particularly beautiful, very nice temperatures, very comfortable. Summers are dry and sunny and can get a little warm, but not generally stifling hot like in Southeast Asia or Florida. The autumn is very pleasant, and overall we would characterize the weather here as moderate. Up next, Istanbul is a great hub for international flights for reaching other parts of the world. And yeah, one of the great things is that its location on the map is situated where you can get really almost anywhere in the world. We could even fly all the way back to the US non-stop if we wanted. I want to talk about transportation next because it really surprised us in a good way. We particularly found the trams and streetcars to be very convenient for getting around. There are also the metro trains to get around, with stations all over, so you never have to walk too far to get wherever you need to go. And the best way to get between the European side and the Asian side of the city is on one of the ferries. The cost to use public transportation is dirt cheap, usually around 50 US cents at the moment. One tip for using transportation, it's really best to get the Istanbul cart. It's a metro card that gives you access to all forms of public transportation. A second tip is that the city can have some steep hills, so what looks like on the map an easy walk can actually be difficult. A few of the hills have an underground funicular to help with this. And the third tip involves the main bus station for getting to other destinations in Turkey. We thought the bus station was a little confusing. It took us a while to find the bus company we had booked with, so get to the station early so you don't miss your bus. The next thing on the list is the markets, because you can find just about anything you need here. In fact, Emily was looking for a very specific craft supply that has been typically difficult to find in other parts of the world, but it was no problem here. And the Grand Bazaar is a monstrous place to do some shopping with a huge variety of spices, seasonings, nuts, dried fruit, etc., etc., etc. Next is the tulips, and in the springtime, these are spectacular. We personally think it's worth visiting Istanbul just to see the tulips. When you think tulips, you probably think of Amsterdam, right? But tulips actually originated here in Turkey, first cultivated here way back in the year 1055, according to some sources. But you have to come at the right time of year, usually April. If you come at the wrong time, you won't get to see too much. This year, the blooms were later than usual due to the colder than normal winter. And the final thing we like is the mix of both the modern era and the traditional era. I've already shown you a lot of the traditional side to the city, with the mosques and the bazaars, but Istanbul is also very modern and contemporary. It almost feels like if ancient Cairo and modern Tokyo had a baby, you would get Istanbul. It's really the best of both worlds. Okay, now for just a few things that we don't really like about Istanbul, and the first is the scams that you hear about. We had 2 scams attempted on us, but fortunately we knew about these ahead of time. The first was on our taxi ride from the airport. The driver did not turn on the taxi meter, so we just told him to turn it on as we pulled out of the airport to avoid confusion with the price. And yeah, he turned it on and it was no problem. And the second scam was a shoe shiner man who dropped his brush. The scam is that the tourist picks up the brush and the shoe shiner is so grateful that he insists on shining your shoes, but will totally overcharge you. We just stepped over his brush and didn't pick it up, and he didn't hassle us at all. The next thing on the con list is that Istanbul is very crowded due to its large population size. Now I know this is an issue with almost all big cities, not just Istanbul. The traffic can be quite heavy here with a lot of road congestion. The public transportation can get really packed with people at times, and there's even a lot of pedestrian crowding just walking around. And the final thing on the list is the housing costs. They are quite high compared to the rest of the country. There does seem to be a lot of construction of new apartment buildings, so hopefully this will help in the future. The prices here, the exchange rate with foreign currencies, and the inflation rate here can change quickly and drastically. In fact, let me tell you, I was planning to give some examples of housing prices in this video, but from when I started working on this video until I was finishing it up, the prices and the exchange rates changed quite a bit. Our spending for our 2 trips to Istanbul this year averaged $61 per day for the 2 of us. That includes our small room in a 2-star family-run hotel, our food, mostly eating at inexpensive restaurants, our transportation within the city, a few activities, and a few small miscellaneous items. I'll put more information about the cost of living in the description section below. So, could we live in Istanbul? Well, yeah, I really think we could be happy living here. Istanbul has great people, fantastic public transportation, and its cost of living compared to other big European cities is quite reasonable. But like I said, we suspect other places in Turkey give a better value for the money, so we want to keep exploring other parts of the country. We think there might be something we like even better in Turkey to call our home base. So be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you can follow along with us as we continue our journey. Thanks for traveling with us.